Good Friday evening, everyone. Kirk Tovey, Cherries Red Army. It's another match preview as Bournemouth prepare to take on Derby County in the Championship tomorrow afternoon. Look, we're going to be honest with you this evening. Look, we've got to go there. We've got to talk about what happened at Preston. We've got to talk about what happened at Peterborough, and we've got some excellent guests on. We've got Cherries Red Army team and Ahmed Shooble from the Athletic. So we're going to be able to have a really, really good, constructive debate. But I'm confident by about 9 o'clock when we get those score predictions in that we're going to be positive going into this game. And the team needs you tomorrow and we need you tonight. So take advantage of the YouTube live stream that you're currently watching. In that chat, let us know your comments throughout the evening. We'll show them on the screen and let us know who's currently joining us right now. But first of all, please hit the like button. That really helps the channel. Also within YouTube. Also subscribe as we're very, very close to 850 subscribers. So please do that for us. And if you weren't able to catch us live, just let us know your thoughts on anything you hear throughout the evening in those comments. So Derby County tomorrow. Should we get our guests on? Scott Parker versus Wayne Rooney. Welcome to our guests. We've got Aaron Kaye. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Kirk. Nice to see everybody.
Excellent. It was his birthday this week. Welcome to Matt Davies on to Cherries Red Army. This preview. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, very well, Kirk. Pleasure to be here as ever.
And we've been so lucky to have this guy this year to help us with the stats and the information for the Cherries. It's Ahmed Shooble from the Athletic. Thanks for coming on, Ahmed.
Thanks for having me, man. Hope I haven't bored you guys.
Still enjoying it?
Not at all.
Oh, me? Of course, I'm loving it, man. Of course.
Okay, and who's currently joining us this evening then on YouTube and potentially Twitter? We've got Andrew's live vlog, we've got Chris Hubble, JK Up the Cherry, Stephen Dyer, Channel Sport member Mark Singleton, Liam, Cameron, we've got Ron the Pug, Mark Cole, Sammy, and we look like we're there, Dan Shaw and Roy Frampton as well. Thank you to everyone currently joining us. So, as always, Aaron, we're going to go back to what happened in that last fixture. Now, we had a match day vlog out after the Peterborough game. And when I was recording the match day vlog, I was asking people, give me one word about how you're feeling before the game. And some of the words were coming in that were nervous. And I was in there as well with the nervous. And there's a reason for that. And that's because what happened on Tuesday night when we went 1-0 behind and ended up drawing to bottom of the league. It was, it's where we are right now, isn't it?
Yeah, so my word before the game was confident, but I actually did preface that by saying, I hope it's not naive of me to say that. Despite some of the performances in recent weeks, I really did feel confident we put Peterborough to bed, simply because they are the worst team in the league by a country mile. We started okay. I thought we actually started quite brightly, but as has been the pattern in recent weeks, if we don't score a goal early on, 10, 15 minutes, we then sort of go into our shell a bit and regroup. It gives the other team confidence, and then we struggle to break them down. And invariably, we end up giving a silly goal away. And from that moment on, it becomes even more difficult. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll come on to discuss kind of the general philosophy of where we are at the moment. But Ryan Christie got a goal, a lot of time left in the game at that stage. I was convinced we'd go on to win it. Didn't quite happen. And the fact was that neither keeper really had a save to make. And that sums it all up.
Matt, but when we hear from the rest of the Championship and other fans outside of Bournemouth, they're like, what are you talking about? You're second in the league with 3 games in hand. Okay, Huddersfield have just kicked off against West Brom. But, you know, are we wrong?
Well, I think there's 2 sides to the argument, obviously, and it's been highlighted this week, isn't it? I think there's there's got to be a little bit of give and take on both sides. And I'm talking Scott Parker and the management team and the football club itself, and us as a supporter base. I think, it's a unique situation for us. With it going back through history, we've never really been in this position apart from the last sort of 7 or 8 years, have we? We've obviously attracted new supporters. Some might call them Premier League supporters. So with that comes a degree of expectation. But the expectation is there rightly so in many ways, because we have reinvested in the squad. We have brought a management team in Scott Parker and his team that is very much a project. So we have to be patient. There does have to be patience. Things will take time. We are going through a massive transition. And I think the other factor is that we really were spoiled under Eddie Howe, not just in terms of the product that was being served up on the pitch, but everything that he did off the pitch as well. His engagement with the supporters, his engagement with the local community, his affiliation to the club and the local area was all there. And it's something that we've become accustomed to, haven't we, over many years. As I say, we're in transition now. That time has gone. But as supporters, we don't forget it, and we've become used to it. And now Scott Parker's come in, different man, different style. It will take time. So I do get that. I do get the side of the argument from his point of view and the club's point of view. I just think that there's some other factors that don't sit comfortably with me at the moment. One of them, the most worrying one for me for long-term success, is the disconnection that he seems to be developing with the fan base.
There's been some deep conversations with Scott Parker since that midweek game, and it looks like maybe something's hitting home, and we'll find out in the next few games whether there is that connection between him and the fans. Well, it depends whether he's going to be on the sidelines to starters, because obviously he may be in the stands for a few games. But Ahmed, going back to that Peterborough game, I know that you're a guy that likes stats. Myself, I love them as well, and there's a few sort of apps that you can use, and I use Who Scored for some stuff as well. And this is really interesting, Ahmed. I'll just drop the banner off the screen so you can see everything here. And I was looking at this the other day, and it gives you a match summary of the Bournemouth versus Peterborough, and it looks at strengths, created high number of chances relative to their possession, and then weaknesses were poor at finishing, committed a high number of individual errors. And you start to go down that, and it says, well, even that app's not far out.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take these things with a pinch of salt. Obviously, it's nice to have these sort of summaries, but I think a lot of this stuff is, I guess, down to interpretation and your own opinion. But no, it doesn't. I mean, off reading that, they got it pretty much spot on. It was a thing where it was a game which followed a traditional sort of pattern where Bournemouth kind of they'll start in a very, very dominant way, and they'll have 2 or 3 really presentable chances, but coming up against teams, and we're seeing this in terms of Bournemouth struggling against, the likes of Derby as well, which were coming up, Peterborough, Preston North End, teams who play 5 defenders at the back. And when you let them get back into the game and potentially take the lead, they're even less incentivized to go forward. And then so you're playing against sort of 7 players now, and that low block just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And there doesn't seem to be. I tweeted after the game. It kind of seems like Groundhog Day in a way. And I understand a lot of Bournemouth fans are concerned about the way of playing, particularly when it comes to that transition into the Premier League, and I'm sure we'll come on to that at some point soon in this live stream. But I'm still scratching my head, to be honest. I've been looking at the stats and the spreadsheets this whole time, and there doesn't really seem to be any sort of explanation for it, which I guess probably suggests that it's a mental thing. A few people I've spoken to around the club will agree that it's more of a mental block that the players have. I mean, this is quite a young squad, talented, yes, but the likes of Jayden Anthony, Jordan Zamora, this is their first real season in what is essentially a title race, really, because, well, not necessarily a title race, but it's a push in men's football in a top league that they haven't experienced before, and there are going to be peaks and troughs in that. That they're going to have to weather, and a lot of that isn't going to be. It's not going to be as plain sailing as the 15-game unbeaten run at the start of the season.
No, Aaron, myself and you, we were very much pro Parker in, and he's got to stay until the end. We've got to see this through 100%. But when you are sitting there, and I said it at the start of the game, I said I understand that managers nowadays have philosophies. They have a way that they want to carry out their management. But there's certain games where I just think he's overthinking it. I just think that he could have put 11 good players on that pitch. It didn't really matter what 11 he put out there. To a man, we should be capable of beating Peterborough. And I didn't really think we needed to tactically be that intense.
Well, that's exactly it. And as Matt alluded to, it's two sides of the coin. I mean, I was pro Parker coming in. You know, you hear things around the stadium. I don't know who else people think we might possibly get, but now I am. And looking at the bigger picture, look where we are in the league. We've talked about that already. We're in prime position. The likes of West Brom, Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Forest, Stoke, they'd all love to be in our position, and they all actually think they should be in our position, but they're not. And I think what's important to try and take into account is that, talking about the fan base, is that in reality, this season and last season were possibly the only two seasons in our history, or certainly recent history, where we're expected to do things that the fans expected. We never expected to go up to the Premier League, and we never expected to stay up in the Premier League. So last season and this season is a completely different mindset for all of us in the history we've supported the club. But as you say, in the here and now, on Tuesday night, what infuriated me as someone who is generally a Parker fan, was it seems to be his stubbornness of refusing to change his system. The like-for-like substitutions do my head in. I just knew that Dembele would come off for Anthony, or invariably it would be someone else for Lowe. I know Anthony went to right back on Tuesday. That's a whole different story. But generally speaking, it's winger for winger, centre attacking midfielder for centre attacking midfielder. And I know he lost Kiefer Moore, which was a big blow, because he brought him in probably for this very reason, to have someone else up top, a presence. So that obviously wasn't Scott's fault. But the inability or unwillingness to put two up top when things aren't working, even if it's for the last 20 minutes, for heaven's sake, that's what got me. And it's no one wants to hear that the negativity around the stadium. It doesn't help anybody during a game. And if anything, it's going to have to be counterproductive and then make us more apprehensive, because the player's going to go more into their shell. But yeah, that's what's really sticking with me at the moment. And that's what's infuriating me, because I'm just willing him to unleash it, try something. If it's not working, try something different. As you said, against Peterborough at home, go two up top.
Let's look at some of these players then, Ahmed. And I know I spoke to you off air as well, and I'm confused by some of these players that were shining the Championship a light earlier on in the season. I'm going to bring you two names coming in for me, and that was, firstly, a player that wasn't even playing for us and was the best fullback in the Championship, Ethan Laird. And 2.5 months later, he's not up to speed to play for Bournemouth at right back versus Peterborough. That one confuses me. The second one is Jordan Zamora, a player that used to drive us up the pitch 30 yards with a ball and get us in attacking areas. On Tuesday, he wasn't interested. What's your thoughts, and how can Scott Parker get these players back performing the way they were?
Yeah, those are two players where I thought, particularly with Ethan Laird, and when he was signed earlier in January, I was thinking, I'm starting to see the kind of football that Parker wants to play. I'm starting to, I would love to see that, obviously, in practice, but just the idea of having those two such adventurous fullbacks on either flank, just bombing down the wing. And we know Parker likes to commit bodies forward. We know that Parker wants his fullbacks to, not just be fullbacks, but he wants them to come inside sometimes and flank Lerma, whoever's playing the deepest midfield role, be midfielders essentially, protect against the counter attack. There is such a multifaceted role in Parker's system. And a lot of it is to do, obviously, Bournemouth will have the majority of the ball in most games. So it's going to be quite an attacking role as well. So the prospect of having Zamora and Laird on either flank was very exciting. The fact that Zamora has regressed in his kind of bravery and courage in terms of going forward on the ball, he's a lot less. He almost had those, he would sort of thrust Bournemouth forward with his underlapping runs. There was this familiar pattern of play, which I haven't really seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, as well. But the ball would essentially get switched from one winger to the other. So say, for example, Ryan Christie would send a ball across the pitch to Jayden Anthony. And as the ball is falling to Jayden Anthony, he'll control it. You'll just see Zamora scuttle across, making an underlapping on like a road runner, and it will just inject so much momentum into the attack, and it will switch the where the attack's coming from as well. So the opponents will have to shift over their whole entire shape, and that causes gaps to open up, and then it just creates chaos because you have all those players running into the box for the cutback. Haven't really seen those. That was essentially a trademark in Bournemouth's sort of attacking play. It was one of the many sort of go-to attacks that they had. Haven't seen that for a while. Whether that's because Parker's tweaked things or he wants to find a different way to break down low blocks is another matter. But that's the main place where that's the first sort of attacking thing that I thought of when I thought of Zamora and Laird on both flanks. Those underlapping cutback runs are going to be immense, and it just hasn't happened. The second question as to how Parker gets them playing again, I think only he can really answer that question, to be honest. I think it's a measure of Parker's expectations. I think when Parker was first appointed, and I got to speak to the players about just general first impressions, they all spoke to me about his high standards, and it's like you have to meet them, otherwise, the competition for places means someone else is going to take your position if you don't. And as we saw on, I guess, Peterborough, on the bench, it was Jaden Anthony, apparently, who was the makeshift right back, which is a decision that kind of confuses me. I don't really get it, but I guess Parker knows best. If we understand, I mean, that fullback role is very demanding, and if Parker knows that Laird isn't up to it, I guess ultimately it's his decision to not put him in the deep end, really.
Yeah, I am very much confused. I'm not buying that he wasn't up to scratch and not know how to defend against Peterborough. But hey ho, Matt, let's take some positives though. We've got to bring some positives into this match preview. Ryan Christie got another goal. I wouldn't say we opened and cut them open, shall we say, but we got the goal. We got the equaliser. It meant that we didn't lose the game. And Lewis Cook is a player that's really stepping up for us, although may cause us a problem tomorrow with a selection issue with Jeff Lerman now being available.
Yeah, potentially, Kirk, potentially. Yeah, I was one that was, I think Ryan Christie early season was on fire like a lot of the team were. Confidence was oozing, and that comes with winning football matches, doesn't it? We created momentum. Those youngsters came into the fray unexpectedly and overperformed from what the expectation was. And with that, we gained that momentum. But I think Preston set the precedent. Just touching on where we're at really. Preston at home set the precedent. They set up to with a firm game plan that night to stifle us, and it worked. Albeit we had players missing. I think Methven was left back that night, so they managed to cut our supply down the wings and also get about us in midfield, amongst other things that they did, and they come away winning the game. That was our first defeat. And since then, I mean, the game these days, I think what you've got to remember is the game these days is so technical and so clinical, almost scientific in every aspect of it. Teams would have looked at that Preston defeat that night that we're seeing on screen now, and they would have learned from it. They would have picked up a lot of aspects of what Preston did that night, because I was very, very impressed by it. And I just think it's a case that we've been found out somewhat by the opposition, and a lot of people will argue that that's not an excuse. We've got better players, we've got a better squad than probably every other team, maybe bar Fulham in the division, and we have to find ways around that to be able to win football matches. But we have been doing that, and I think human nature. We're all human, aren't we? And so much as the players have lost confidence, obviously, from that. From those setbacks, and maybe Scott Parker's lost confidence himself. He's a young manager, and this is me, digging out positives now, Kirk. I've leapt to his defence a couple of times this evening already. He is a young manager, young management team. He's come into the role. He's brand new to it. He's following an absolute god and an idol of this football club. So he's got a hell of a reputation and expectation to live up to. So he's bound to have doubts. I'm not expecting him to rip up his script and his philosophy and his style of football and go route one and go 3-5-2. I don't think that's the answer. I think he has to stick with it. I think we just have to be better at plan A. Basically, we need to have a plan B. Of course we do when things aren't working in game time. But plan A, we just need to be better at. And, that's going to take time and that's going to take hard work. And I think that's what Scott Parker is alluding to there, really. That's basically me leaping to his defence a little bit. Ryan Christie, brilliant. I was one that was saying he had a great early season. He tailed off like a lot. a lot of players have done recently in terms of numbers, assists and goals. He needed to weigh in with more. He's starting to do that now. We're starting to see a real player. He's scoring goals. He's having a hand in assists. He looks lively again. He's been interrupted by his injury, but that was a real positive on Tuesday. And Lewis Cook is another one where we've been saying, haven't we, since the injury, that he needs to now step up if he's fully fit. Or, what is his role? I don't see we didn't see what his purpose was, did we, games ago? But Scott Parker has found his purpose, which is a number 6, which is essentially what he is. That's his best position, and he's performed that position well. He's been combative. He's getting his foot in. He's tackling well. He's looking after the football. He's distributing well. He's been a real high point of the last few games. But for me, if I can just touch on a couple of other points. For me, one of Parker's strengths apparently is his man management. I haven't seen that of late. I mean, when you drop a fella like Jack Stacey, who has been playing well of late, and Adam Smith comes in, we all know he likes Smithy. We all love him. He's got great experience, great ability. But Jack Stacey didn't deserve to be dropped. It was his position to lose. Smithy comes in. Smithy then goes out with it on with a 3-match ban, and he brings Stacey back in, having not. I don't think he even included him in the squad, did he? Against Preston, and then expects the fella to perform well. Lo and behold, he didn't perform well. And then because Ethan Laird, for whatever reason, isn't on the bench, he brings on Jayden Anthony, who's arguably our most offensive player, playing left wing at right back at home to Peterborough, 1-1, chasing the game. They're bottom of the league. That for me is not great man management at all. And the second point is you leave out Jamal Lowe, who scored 3 and 3. All right, his all-round game and his performances might not have been to the highest level. He doesn't get close enough to Dom. Sometimes we wonder where he's at in a game, what he's doing, where he is. But he scored 3 and 3. That's what he's paid to do. And yet he gets dropped and brought on the 87th minute. Now, for me, again, not great man management. Forget the disconnection that he's got with the fans, that he's not managing particularly well. And I take his points. Yeah, we are a fickle fan base. We don't, we're not particularly noisy or loud at times. We are quick to, be a little bit fickle as a fan base. But those points, I have to highlight, because as much as I've leapt to his defence this evening, you have to be critical and say it as it is as well, Kirk.
Ahmed, I'm just going to come to you because I know that you're a busy man and you're going to have to pop off the preview very, very soon. But you did want to speak about if Bournemouth do get to the Premier League and we do sort of get back to winning ways and we get over the line, that you actually think we might be a little bit more comfortable under Parker and his philosophy in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if Bournemouth will be more comfortable. I'm just more open to the idea of Parker remaining as manager in the Premier League. I think he's definitely building with sort of a view to making Bournemouth a Premier League team. I think that's the eventual goal for Bournemouth and the Scott Parker project. I think with Bournemouth, it's difficult because not just with Bournemouth, technically, with any team from the Championship who goes up to the Premier League, that transition is so difficult to master, because you go from being a team like Norwich was when they were in the Championship, beating teams for fun, running away with it. And then when they get to the Premier League, they're a completely different proposition in terms of, teams aren't sitting back against them. The quality of chances that you let up, teams can score from even the slightest of chances. And so, it's a lot more ruthless in that respect. But I think with Bournemouth, in terms of tactically speaking, anyone will struggle to play against any team that sits back and has a low block or puts however many players behind the ball. That's just a given. Obviously, Bournemouth have the quality of players to be able to break that down, but it's going to be very difficult to do that. What's not so difficult to do, which I think Bournemouth are probably more suited towards, is playing a game in transition, which I think they'll probably be doing more of in the Premier League, because Bournemouth will be one of the without trying to cause offence, one of the lower ranked teams in the Premier League, and so teams will be penning them in. And it will be Bournemouth who will be playing on the break, as opposed to what it is now, where Bournemouth are the ones penning teams in. So I think when you've got players like, Dominic Solanke, Ryan Christie, Jayden Anthony, they're all better with space in front of them, I think. And that will probably benefit Bournemouth in the long run. But then again, this is just all based on assumption. I have no idea how Parker is going to line up. If he'll even stay with a 4-3-3, he might go with the back five. He might go with a midfield diamond. He might even go with a false nine. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's very difficult to judge and very easy to judge a manager who has ambitions of going to the Premier League based on his Championship record. I think it's kind of a cliche, but you kind of have to wait until he gets there. It's obviously easy said than done, but it's very difficult to judge for now. But from what I can tell, I guess in theory, with Bournemouth having more space to play in the Premier League, that would probably benefit them more. If they get to the Premier League.
More importantly, we've got to try and get to the Premier League. Great to have your insight on the show, Ahmed. Do you give us a score prediction? How are you feeling?
I'm going to keep it safe. I was looking at it today. I think Bournemouth have won 18 games in the league this season and 10 have come from a 1-goal margin. So I'm going to keep with that trend. And I'm going to give it a 2-1 to Bournemouth.
And are you covering the game?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Excellent. Make sure you check out Ahmed. I'm sure you are already. His details are in the description below, but it's great to have you on. Have a good weekend, Ahmed. And we're going to continue with this match preview. I've got another guest coming on very soon.
Ahmed.
We've got lots more.
Hi, Ahmed. Thanks
to
a
talk
lot.
about.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And we've got another channel supporter donator. He donated to the channel recently. Mark Davies, how you doing?
Evening, boys. Yeah, very well, Kirk. Yeah, very well, Matt. Nice to see you. And you, Aaron. Nice to see you all.
And we need to bring some more positivity into the room. So let's move on to the opposition, who are very much in a negative way in the league, but mainly down to their points deduction, Mark. And this is Derby. They're just inside the relegation zone. But to be fair play to them, if they didn't have those points deductions, they would be around mid-table by now. But they've only had 2 wins away from home this season versus Stoke and Hull City. No draws since January the 30th. No win away since December the 30th. But Wayne Rooney, he decided to hang around and he's still having a right good go at it.
Very much so, Kirk, and it could be something that it's quite awe-inspiring, really. I thought ours was, from minus 17. But if Derby pull this off, a little bit of a shame if they sort of overshadow us a little bit with that. However, what was I going to say? Yeah, I was going to get a quick negative out of the way. Actually, that was it. One thing I seem to find with our club, Kirk, is whenever one of these lower teams need to find a little extra from something, they always bring it to us, and we just seem to be the club that just keeps on giving. You look at Hull, you look at Peterborough recently. Like I say, I'm going to get the negative out of the way now because I'm going to be positive for the rest of it. And there's just something inside of me that potentially says we could even be giving Derby something this weekend as well, mate.
Well, it's been a long time since we've beaten them. And Aaron, a player that we're going to need to watch, a player that lit up their stadium when we played him earlier on in the season, was Tom Lawrence, a player that we tried to apparently purchase. We didn't in the end, but he's probably the one to watch tomorrow, isn't he?
Yeah, without doubt. He makes them tick. He scores, he assists. He just recently had a 3-game suspension. They lost all 3 games. He comes back last week and they win. So typically he's obviously back against us. So we could have done without that. But yeah, he's certainly one of a number of players. I mean, it's a difficult one with them, isn't it? Because they look bottom 3 and you think it should be easy to roll over. But as we all know, they're not a bottom 3 team. They'd be pushing for the playoffs if they weren't, if they didn't have that points deduction. So it's going to be a very difficult game. But yeah, Lawrence certainly will need to be one to be watched.
Talking of goals, Matt, for Derby, 36 games, 36 goals, and they've scored 12 goals after 75 minutes. So 1.0, the rate for goals for them. But as we found out recently, that can be enough against the Cherries.
Yeah, yes, it certainly can of late, can't it? Really, one thing you can be guaranteed with Derby tomorrow is that they'll come here with such passion and such fight. That we're going to have to really be matching that mentality ourselves, because it's not just them that have got a lot of stake. There's a lot at stake for our football club as well. If we don't get promoted this season, then I fear for the future. I must be honest, I really do. We'll be in our 3rd year, obviously, of parachute payments. We all know what can happen. We've been here before, so it's much will be made of how important the game is to Derby County and how much they're fighting and the passion against within adversity that they're showing. We need to be matching that tomorrow. So that tells me that the game is it's tailor made for Jeff Lerma, as long as we can control his temperament, because midfield is where it will be won and lost. And one thing that I've noticed with Derby and with how Wayne Rooney sets up is it will look to get the fullbacks involved. And we saw that at Pride Park, didn't we? Or away from home. He looks to get the fullbacks involved. One of them we know well, Nathan Byrne. And then you've got Ebiseli on the other side. These are young players. He looks to get them involved from midfield. So he's looking for either Tom Lawrence or maybe Ravel Morrison to drop deep out of that front three that will sit behind the main striker, whoever that might be, and start orchestrating the play. So Lerma will have to keep tabs firmly, and Lewis Cook will have to keep tabs firmly on those two. If we can do that, and we can dominate the midfield ourselves, then that's when we'll have our joy, I think, against them. But I'm with Mark. I'm expecting a really, really tough game. We never make things easy for ourselves, particularly against teams like this. I say like this because Derby wouldn't be bottom three, would they? They'd be mid-table at least. So it's an interesting matchup. And again, I think the formation will be similar. I think Wayne will go with a sort of a 4-2-3-1 formation. So the formations won't be too dissimilar. It'll be won and lost in the midfield, and it'll be won and lost with whoever wants it more, I think, as well tomorrow. And we've got to show up. We'll match them mentality-wise before we start trying to show a bit of quality that we've obviously got.
I think what works in our favour, I watched Ray Rooney's press conference earlier, and he said, we need to win. The draw's not good enough for us. We will come to Bournemouth and try and win the game.
Yeah.
And I think that will play into our hands. And I think, as Matt said, they play a back four. I think our win percentage against a back four this season is probably pretty high. So if he had any sense, he'd play a back five. But it looks like he plays a back four, and he will come at us. And I said, as I said before, I think that will play into our hands.
Scott Parker's probably had enough of interviews this week, Mark, but from one press conference with Wayne Rooney to Scott Parker's press conference, he was asked the standard stuff about injuries. Brady's maybe back on the turf. Junior Stanislav is a little bit further away. Ethan Laird.
Sorry, Kirk, I don't know if that's you or that's me, mate. You've dropped out.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
So coming to you, Aaron, just to see if Mark there. So we've got Scott Parker with his press conference, and Robbie Brady's back on the turf. Junior Stanislas still struggling. Ethan Laird, then, he might be in the running for a pick this weekend. No Billing, no Smith. So, yeah, still decisions for the manager to make.
Yeah, and I don't want to tempt fate here, because this happened last time I watched the training videos and Jaden Anthony wasn't in it and he didn't play. I didn't see Dom Solanke in any of the pictures in the training videos or the pictures. Now, hopefully, he won't read too much into that, but he certainly wasn't there. But yes, decisions to make. There are certain decisions which I would make for sure. I don't think Scott will make them, but I will come to the team lineup in a bit, I'm sure. But I think you have to be ruthless in certain performances, and there are 1, 2, possibly 3 players who I would pull out that team and put others in their place.
Well, we're going to take a look at that predicted 11 very quickly. Mark, are you back with us?
Sorry, Kurt, come back king here. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. We're going to go straight into that predicted 11 very, very soon. But someone who is back feels like he's been away for ages, and that's Jeff Lerma. And we know that Scott Parker's going to have his favourites. We've spoken about Adam Smith having a guaranteed place when he's fit. Jeff Lerma's in that same boat as well for me. The problem is he's likely going to have to move position again. Now, as quickly as we push him into the 8 position, which might happen very soon, we need to remember that he got moved back to number 6 because it wasn't working with him at number 8 when we had our spell between November and December, I think. So I think we can forget easily that we've had problems when he's played in number 8 as well.
I think the luxury that quite possibly Parker will have for this game is if he wants to put Lerma and Lewis Cook in the team, they could just interswap. Very much so. And I think I just wanted to pick up on a point that Matt was saying about earlier. I mean, when it does come to this team selection, it's possibly for this type of game, bit of a silver line that Billing is suspended for this one. In that, recently he probably needs to come out of the team, have a bit of a breather. He's been, it just feels like he's been slowing up the play recently. You know, Lewis is obviously rejuvenated. He seems to be having that confidence now that, you know, his body's just not going to give up on him. So, you know, he's able to you know, carry that ball, start driving forward, and that potentially will allow Lerma to, you know, just either just sit back a little bit, protect the back line a little bit more, and then vice versa, depending on, you know, which side we want to play, you know, whether Lerma wants to take the ball, drive it forward, Lewis can just then sit back. So I think potentially with Billing being out of the team, that's going to allow us to add a bit more pace into our play now.
And we want you to get involved in the predicted 11 that we're going into with 2 Davies in the room. Potentially, does a Davies start tomorrow? Okay, as we go through the team, let us know your thoughts in the comments, because this could be, well, there could be some variations here, but currently we've got some players already picked on the screen. We've gone Travers in goal. Phillips and Kelly, I just don't see that partnership breaking, even if we think it should break. I think Phillips is probably guaranteed a start if he's fit. Lewis Cook to be the deep holding midfielder. Jeff Lerma to go ahead. Tom Cantwell to play alongside. Ryan Christie from the right. Dom Solanke up top. And Matt, I'm going to come to you first for right back. It's going to be between Jack Stacey and Ethan Laird. I think Jack Stacey looked a player that was upset through being dropped. And then you've got Ethan Laird. Can he tactically perform for Scott Parker? I mean, where would you go with this one?
Jaden Anthony, nailed on. Ridiculous, isn't it, really? Jack Stacey, I've touched upon it already. It's been hit and miss all season. It hasn't always performed at the highest level. But had been improving. And then he gets Adam Smith comes back in, Stacey gets dropped out of the whole squad, and then comes back in just because Smith is banned and is expected to perform. So going on the premise that he's saying that Ethan Laird isn't ready, and this was only less than a week ago, he's saying he's not ready and he needs more work, whatever is going on behind the scenes with Ethan Laird, I'm not buying that at all. But he said it. So clearly, you know, it would be a shock for me if Ethan Laird starts tomorrow, to be honest, after he said that. In fact, you know, I'm starting to question whether he's even in the country still, let alone at the football club. It's a very, very bizarre situation, that one. So you have to go with Stacey. I'd have to go with Jack Stacey. And, you know, a bit of man management. He's going to need his arm around his shoulder, really, and say, look, Jack, I took you out of the team. Maybe I made a mistake in taking you out of the team. Maybe you didn't deserve to be dropped. I brought you in on Tuesday. You didn't perform. I took you off and brought my most offensive player in place of you at right back when we're chasing a game 1-1 against bottom of the league. He's going to need some nurturing and some management there. But I'd go with Stacey. Long and short of it.
Ethan Laird is in the training images and videos, though, that were dropped by AFC Bournemouth today. So he is around. He is around the club at the moment.
No, I haven't seen that. Yeah, that's reassuring.
Let's go to the other side then, Mark. I mean, we've all raved about Jordan Zamora. He's been a great player for us this season. He wasn't the Jordan Zamora that we have seen earlier on in the season on Tuesday. And the fans are calling for Leif Davis, and it's hard to go against that. Would you be picking Leif Davis for this game?
I wouldn't be going against it, but then equally, I wouldn't be going against, you know, still having Zamora in the squad as well. Again, it is one of those where it does come down to Parker's management. However, one thing we do have to remember is the Championship is a brutal season. You know, it's not like the Prem in many cases where you can get a break in the middle of the week. You know, it is Saturdays, Tuesdays, you know, and this is you know, Jay-Z's first season within the first team. He's a young lad, you know, he's done absolutely brilliantly for us, that's for sure. So I'm not adverse to having Leif Davis at left back there.
Okay, fantastic. We'll move up the pitch then, Aaron. Let's go to that other sort of counter-attacking midfielder role. Now it could be Dembele. I was a bit disappointed with Dembele the other night. I'm not going to lie. He looks a player that wants to impress. Whether it comes off is another question. But look, he's a player that could excite in certain games. Anthony is sort of gone off the boil a bit as well. Have we maxed him out? Or there is a question I want to ask you, Aaron, potentially, is whether Cantwell could play that role and whether someone like Marcondes could come in and play alongside Lerma.
Could do that. I think Marcondes has impressed me in recent games, coming off the bench at Blackpool, coming off against bench against Stoke, and being really instrumental there. I think he's had a really hard time of it. I think he's a better player coming off the bench. So, and he didn't get any time to influence the game on Tuesday night, did he? So, feel a bit sorry for him. If we're going with what Scott Parker's going to do, which I think that's what we're doing, Cantwell will stay next to Lerma. I think especially as we've lost a bit of creativity with Billing being suspended and Jeff isn't the most creative. I think he's going to keep Cantwell in the centre of the park. And I think he will pick Anthony, rightly or wrongly. I think Anthony will definitely start.
And Mark, a final question for you is every week that we're doing these match previews at the moment, we are forgetting about certain players, and that's the likes of Gavin Kilkenny, who hasn't had a game really since his man of the match performance at Borough, I think it was, and the likes of Ben Pearson, who would be right up his street for a game like this with a Wayne Rooney side that's probably going to be pumped.
I mean, you've only got to look at the start of the season, haven't you, when we went on our unbeaten run at the beginning, and you look at the youth lads that were, starting those games, and they've done the club proud massively. I would obviously like to see Kilkenny get more game time, of course, but I think we're coming into the business end of the season now, and again, sometimes on the left side where you got the likes of Zamora, sometimes you can have more people sort of covering your mistakes there, whereas you've got the central positions there, and you've got the likes of Lerma, Cook, and you have Pearson now and then as well. But they're probably, in Parker's eyes, maybe a little bit more reliable. They've got that bit more experience. And when you are in the Championship, and it is every sort of Saturday and Tuesday, again, it's who you can trust at the end of the day. And obviously, Parker's just sort of laying his cards out now and saying that the guys have done well at the beginning of the season. It's now time to give the experienced heads a go.
And I think that's what we're going to go for then. That is our predicted 11 for this game. Do you agree with it in the chat? Let us know. Put a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you weren't able to join us live, let us know in the comments. But those score predictions, they're coming very, very soon. So let's get those score predictions in the chat. Right now, let us know what you think the score will be tomorrow at Dean Court, Bournemouth versus Derby. And guys, let's just have a look while those score predictions are going in. A couple of match stats. Matt, both teams are joint second for red cards with 5 each. I'm not sure that's a good sign with Jeff Lerma coming back tomorrow. Neither team registered a direct free kick goal this season either.
That surprises me about Derby. That doesn't surprise. Well, obviously we know our situation, but that stat does surprise. Doesn't surprise me the red card stat. To be honest, we know our situation again, but Derby, no, that doesn't surprise me. But the free kick situation, yeah, when you've got players with the ability of Tom Lawrence on the ball, etc., I would have thought they'd have bagged one from that. But yeah, interesting.
They will tomorrow. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't talk about it, Aaron. Shush, no.
Aaron, we have a terrible record against Derby. The last time I think we got a decent result against them, I was born 37 years ago or something silly like that. I do remember in the Championship, we were 2-1 up at home under Eddie Howe. And I can remember us, if you were there, it might have been in the first Championship season, not the promotion season, but I can remember us coming out in the second half and not registering a shot on goal. And we tried to hold on to a 2-1 lead, but we conceded to a Darren Bent goal, I think. And I just remember we even had bad days under Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I do remember that. I was there, Kirk. These bogey teams, we always think the run's going to end. It didn't against Preston, and it does worry me a bit for tomorrow because sometimes these things just happen for a reason. I do think that Lerma. By the way, if he gets sent off again, is that a 5-game ban? Does it keep
Mark
going
said,
up?
Don't mention it.
Yeah. No, I mean. And as Scott Parker made reference to this, I don't think we can underestimate how important Jefferson Lerma is, how good he is. I mean, when he came back after his 6-game suspension earlier in the season. He was fantastic. He then was out of the team for a bit again, then he came back, and he was against QPR away. I remember he just dominated the game, and he's so influential. So even higher up the pitch, I know he's not got that creativity necessarily, but he's got the engine. He will help Lewis Cook in front of a defence. He'll help Todd Cantwell further forward. He's got the energy to do that. Hopefully he's not too match rusty, having been out for goodness knows, seems like a few weeks now. But I think having him back is huge. And I think psychologically huge for the rest of the team, because he's sometimes worth two players in the middle of the park.
But do you think sometimes where he... Sorry, Aaron, but do you think sometimes, though, gents, when he... because he has such a... Especially this year, he has such a stop-start season. Whenever he comes back into the team, he's like a little excitable dog, isn't he? He just wants to chase everything down. And whereas with Parky, again, coming down to man management, possibly, needs to put an arm around him and say, Jeff, just chill out, mate. We know what you're good at, but you just got to keep his head. I don't know what his English is like these days. You would have thought he would have picked up a few words by now. But because where he has he's in and out of the team for whatever reason, whether it's not usually injuries, is it? But he just comes back onto the pitch, and he does want to put himself about so much. And if I'm sure he's going to be starting tomorrow, but he's massive for us, and he just needs to keep his head, keep calm. And well, that's all I've really got to say about that.
And we don't want to take that away from him, but for me, and it's not quite as black and white as this, if he plays majority, if not all of the games the rest of the season, I think we do get promoted. Because I think he's so important to us in whatever position he plays.
I'd go along with that, Aaron. Definitely. I mean, the thing that's called into question always is his temperament, really, and it has cost us this season. I'd go as far as to say he has been a liability at times that's really cost us. So tomorrow's going to be so important for him to keep that temperament in check. But Mark's right, and he's versatile. He can play in a number of roles, and I'm repeating myself here because I said it on the Reading preview, which will obviously be going out shortly. But there is a case that for playing two number sixes, we can be adaptable and flexible, can't we? If we need to switch things up, like Mark says, whether it's Lewis Cook a little bit more advanced, even in the game, or if Lerma drops back, or even playing them both a little bit deep line and allowing us to gain that control in midfield, which we haven't had, and then allowing Cantwell to do his thing behind the front three, because I just think that Billing and Cantwell are almost getting in each other's way a little bit, the two of them. Very similar. I think the two of them can play together, and it could be effective with Cantwell in front of them.
I was going to give you a yellow card there, Matt. You can't give away our secrets. Yes, we pre-recorded Reading already because we're going to be up against it this weekend.
Sorry,
so
mate.
That'll be out Sunday night. And Matt's given the little secret away now. But I can see those score predictions going in the chat. It's probably the first time actually this season I'm nervous about looking at those scores. But if we're going to get a result tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, shall I say, we're going to need to score some goals. And someone who got to 20 league goals was Dom Solanke. We've got a little video on the YouTube channel if you haven't seen it yet. Dom Solanke, the GOAT. Yeah, it's a bit of fun. Don't take it too serious. But there's someone else as well, a fan that I'm very good friends with. And you may have seen me and Alex Horn back of the net last year having a bit of banter about whether Dom Solanke was a number 9 striker. Alex Hall's always backed him. And I just said that I didn't believe Dom Solanke had the attributes at the time to hit that milestone. But I did say, if he did hit that milestone, we'll be right up there in the Championship. So I think we're both right, Alex. But guys, in the chat, people watching, Alex couldn't help himself. He had to send me a little video. And I'll show it because I'm happy to show it. This is Alex Hall giving his thoughts prior to Peterborough when Dom Solanke got to 20 league goals.
Here's a quick one for Cherries Red Army, just to say, massive well done, Dom Solanke, 20 goals. 20 goals now this season. I called it last year on back of the net. I said, Kirk, he's a number 9. And I think your infamous words were, you do get a lot right, Kirk, I'd admit. But your infamous words were never a number 9. And I think this year he's proved he's a number 10 and a number 9. And what a better goal to finish it off than he bundled it in, didn't he? Totally bundled it in with his 20th goal of the season. So well done, Dom. Just to say well done. Keep the work up, guys, on Cherries Red Army. And keep the faith. We're going to go up this season. It hasn't been pretty, is it, the last couple of games? But we're digging the results out. And Peterborough tonight. And games to come, we should be getting a few points on the board. So if we can win these 3 or 4, then we're going to be right up there. Come on, you Reds.
Cheers, Alex, for that little contribution. Portrait, you always got to do it in landscape to cover my screen up, but that's absolutely brilliant. Thanks for that. Let's get into those score predictions, shall we? We've got Ron the Pug. Thanks for joining us this evening. 2-0 to the Cherries. Mark Cole, 2-1. Ron's gone back in with 2-1. He's given Tom Lawrence a goal. Jakey up the Cherries has gone for 1-0. And Ron's gone in again. He can't make up his mind up this one. Sammy's 2-0, that is. Make sure you sort of capture that one. That is 2-0 to the Cherries from Sammy. Liam's gone for 2-1. Mark Singleton, 3-2. Paul Horry, 3-1. The famous Andrew's Life vlog. Lots of goals out there tomorrow afternoon, guys. 3-2. Don't miss it. AFC Bournemouth Germany's gone for 1-1. Carol, good to see you the other night, 2-0. And I think we are up to date. And we've even got Jacob Tanswell joining us this evening. Some great stuff Jacob's been dropping this week, covering the Cherries, really giving us some really interesting stuff to read. So thank you, Jacob. Have a good weekend. I'm sure we'll catch up with you soon. And Aaron, haven't beaten them in over 30 years. Need a win. Need 6 points out of 6 in the next 2. What's your score prediction?
We have to be positive, don't we? I think we
Start
will
the
win
weekend on a
tomorrow.
high.
I do think we will win tomorrow. I think it will be 2-1. That's my prediction. I was thinking like a couple of days ago, I was just thinking we can't beat Peterborough. Derby will come and probably get a point, if not beat us. But the more I'm thinking about it, I think we have to see a reaction. We just simply have to. And I think Derby's game plan will potentially suit us better. First goal is going to be massive, but I think Derby need the points. They know they need to catch up to Reading, and I think hopefully their style of play will suit us. They will definitely create problems for us, but I think we'll create problems for them as well. So I'm backing us to turn it around. Hopefully the positivity in the stadium will drive us on. So 2-1.
Go like this, Sammy mentions in the chat. Hit that like button. It really does help the channel. Matt, we need to score the first goal in this game, in my opinion, and that will really get the crowd going, and that will be a positive for us, a positive for the team, and a positive for Scott Parker. Do we win tomorrow?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have to remain positive, don't we? We say it every week. I'm never going to go against the team because we know what our potential is. We know the squad we've got. We know what we're capable of. We've proved it. We've done it earlier in the season. I'm waiting for somebody to get a good eye in, like I've said. And I'm not saying that will happen tomorrow. I think it will be a tight game tomorrow. But I concur with Aaron. I think we will win 2-1 tomorrow. I think there will be goals in it. I think Derby are a bit naive defensively. I've got some youngsters in their side, obviously, with the situation they're in. They've got experience as well with Curtis Davies, but I think we can expose them a little bit and get a couple of goals. But I don't see us keeping a clean sheet either, because I think we're looking a little bit suspect ourselves at the back, and as we know, they've got some quality in forward areas. So I think it'll be a tight game. I think it will ebb and flow. I think it could be a good one for the neutral to watch, because Derby, as the lads have all touched upon, and Aaron's touched upon, certainly they've got to come out. They need points. They're desperate. The end is, they can see safety in sight, almost 5 points. I think they've got to play Reading at home still, so they'll probably take a point, I think, coming to us, but they'll certainly want to go for it and take what they can. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. In terms of scorers, I'd like to say that on the Dom Solanke subject, it's about time that he got another one. So I'm going for Dom Solanke, and I'm going for Todd Cantwell to bag one as well tomorrow. 2-1.
That'll be his first goal. And I'm going to go for a 1-1. I want to hope that everyone who's gone for a win is correct, but I'm going to sit on the fence with a bit of a 1-1. But coming to you, Mark, you're going to have the final score prediction of the evening.
Parker is a stubborn soul, although he has changed his tune a little bit in some recent social media posts from what I've seen. But we're going to huff and we're going to puff. It's going to be a frustrating game. We're going to have 70% possession. We're going to have another 15 shots on target. 3 of them are going to be on target. And we're going to win 1-0 with a Dom Solanke goal. Come on, the Cherries!
I almost feel like getting my clapper out.
Get the clapper out.
Put that away.
Get it out.
Yeah, grief.
Look, we're gonna hopefully turn up tomorrow, because at some point we have to. But Aaron, final thoughts then. It's been great to have another match preview live. Great to have Ahmed on the show. But you going to the game?
Yeah, I'll be going. Yeah, we'll be there, and yeah, I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm really hoping that it's going to turn. I mean, I say it's going to turn. Prior to Preston, we had 4 wins in a row, so it's not been all bad. But I just got a feeling that this is a really big turning point. Next couple of games in our season, draw a line under what's happened recently, and go for it. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Matt, thanks for joining us. You be there tomorrow?
No.
No,
I'm not. I missed out on a ticket because I haven't got a season ticket, so I have to get them on game-by-game basis. And they've been selling out so quickly recently. I missed out on this one. And I'll be honest, I could have probably got a ticket from someone if I really wanted one. But I just thought, I'm going to Huddersfield next week. I've been to so many games home and away this season. I just need a break tomorrow. So I'm having a break from it. But I'll obviously be following it.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
And Mark, how are you going to be following the Cherries tomorrow afternoon?
Live there in the stadium, Kirk.
Excellent stuff. Great to hear. Well, it's been an interesting evening. We've had Ahmed from The Athletic. Make sure you check his details out in the description. Also, hit that like button for Cherries Red Army and subscribe as we head towards 850. And just like Mark Davies did a few weeks ago, it's really grateful if you could support the channel by visiting buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. Thank you to all our channel supporter members. These are monthly supporter members: Mike, Mark, Rich, Richard, Sammy, Steve, Paul, Neil, Aaron now as well, and including Morgan. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, details also in the description to head over for that. But it's been an interesting night, guys, hasn't it? And look, we're not trying to bring Scott Parker down. Scott Parker, I'm sure you're not listening to this, but if you do get wind of it, we want you to do well, and I'm sure you want to do well, and we all want the club to do well, and ultimately we want to go back to the Premier League. But we just want to see a little bit more. Let us in and we'll enjoy it, we promise you. But from us this evening, it's game on tomorrow, and maybe the Cherries will turn over the Rams for the first time in 30 years. But thank you to everyone who's joined us on this live match preview. Until the next video, we'll see you soon. Up the Cherries.
Cherries.
Up the Cherries.